Hi Dee, hi everybody. I just woke up and right there is the barn, and right there's where you got dragged, and they're out there past those big trees right there. Somewhere out in there is where you were being called. Over there is where last night we heard the girl laughing that there was no girl. In my car and the little parking space. So, today's opportunity, before I do another overnight here, is I'm going to take this brush hog path all the way around this open field here and see if I can't come up with any evidence. And I'm not going to bore you with filming the whole thing. I'll just film the highlights. But as you can see, there's a mowed path all the way around this thing. And a vulture. Right there. Nice little vulture. Maybe it's not a vulture, it might be a big hawk. Vultures usually have the little fingers on the end of their... Oh, he does, he's got fingers. It's a turkey vulture. So, here we go. Off and running. Beautiful day. I don't even have a coat on. Said it was going to be in the upper 50s. Feels like it's in the mid 60s. And allergies. It's an entire field of goldenrod. Yay. So here we go. Bye for now. It's a very neat old barn. Right at the corner of the barn, there is like a little alcove in the brush. I think there's a bit of an open field on the other side of this brush here. The phone's not giving it very good perspective. But you can kind of see that something big goes from the barn into that brush over there. Down that path. Now I'm headed towards the sunshine, and I'm headed over here to where I had a dream last night. Some farmer woman was showing me her garden. And I believe that garden was right here. There's the chimney and the barn. Right next to the barn, but out just a tiny little ways is a flat spot. Right here, where this tin is. There's a pretty good sized garden right here. And as you can see, there's carrot. Of course, there wouldn't be any tomato plants left, but those carrots have gone crazy everywhere around here. I'm not sure what these little purple flowers are, but they're really pretty. Johnny jump ups. I think maybe they are. But it seems like I'm looking at some type of wild lettuce and or turnips. Maybe they are turnip greens. But this is where we walked last night, Dee. And that is a giant pile of carrot. Let's see if I can pull up any of these. Nope, not really. They're in there pretty good, but that's all carrot. That might be radishes. That might be a radish. And there's more carrot. And this whole spot right here is all carrots. Maybe it was a little farther away. I think this was her actual garden right here, where all of these carrots are. And I think that's horseradish. But these are all now gone feral, but they're wild carrots. I think that's another radish plant. But oops, and there I am holding the thing the wrong way. I believe her garden was right there. It's a bone of something. Old bone. Probably deer, because that's the most prevalent thing right around here. But I'm going to, oh, yep, there's an open field. Just past the barn is another open field. New places to explore. This one is right next door. Okay. Barn's right there. Come out the back of the barn. And there's people walking. Hi, baby. Hi, kid. People walking a dog. Now this looks like it gets walked frequently here. I don't know if it's people doing it or not. This is not in the direction of any of the things that Dee has on her videos. But that doesn't mean there's not some type of evidence up here. I don't think I would make calls from where I live either. I'd definitely go someplace else. Whew, it's a hill, and I don't yike it. Don't yike it. See if I can get my bearings from the top of this hill. Holy crap. All right, Dee. Hear this? Somebody is flying out of the airport in East Fork. A great big radio controlled plane. Can you hear it? It's not very far away from here. Well, as the crow flies. It takes a long time to drive all the way around here, but it's not that far really. There's a little alcove, but it's so thick in there. Doesn't look like anything big is actually going in that. Okay, this field, down to that looks like a sycamore. That whitest looking tree down there is a sycamore. There might even be a field beyond that hedgerow. I'm gonna walk up there, and then this goes over, and that's just the hedgerow, so that might be a field on the other side of that. And now we're looking down over the field that you have walked through. But I'm gonna walk way up here and see what happens. Bye bye for now. Okay, this is right after the last video I did. You can't see the barn from here, but it's right there. This, what looked before like very heavy cover, is a very thick hedgerow. Now we're looking back towards the road, and right there's a couple of cars on the pull-in right before you get to the barn. There's a couple of cars right there. And this field goes that way, then down to the sycamore I just pointed out, and over that way. So this, surrounding the barn, is a much bigger field than you can actually see from where you park or from the barn itself. This is a huge, huge freaking thing. And you can tell in recent years, you back off a little bit, that right there is the remnants of a corn cob that's years old. There's more. There. See how small the ears are and stuff? So this was a cornfield many years ago. Cornfield many years ago, and then it went off to seed. And there's still a couple of years after that, a stalk here and a stalk there would grow. They don't farm it anymore, but anyway, I'm going to walk down into that low area and stick with the hedgerow unless I find another big open field or anything else to talk about. Here in particular, there are some, it's just dirt ground. Pan back out here. We're walking down dirt ground, and I'm looking for prints other than deer. So I will talk to you in a bit. Alright, I just walked down the hedgerow a little bit. Found a nice buck sign. Scrape on the ground, trees all ripped up. Said, oh, if I was going to bow hunt right now, I would bow hunt right here. But then I followed this ditch in here to the corner just a little bit, and I found an old dump. So there obviously was a homestead here. This thing right in front of me is a firebox oven. The firebox is on this side, oven. Then you have this really heavy duty steel plate, but the burners went. Obviously it's all rusted out, but that's a firebox oven. Then there's a couple of more modern ones. It looks like the one nearest me was actually electric, and I would be super willing to believe that that one over there was a gas stove that actually had a piece of kitchen counter like to the side of it. Could probably find out, but I just did this in case, D, if you know anybody who likes to root around in old dumps, right in there. Anybody that likes old bottles and stuff like that, there's a bunch of them over there. Gotta be kind of careful in here, there's broken glass and stuff, but I thought I would show you because that's got the speckles for enamel. Wood box stove, I'm going to say that was 40s, early 50s, and then probably 60s, end of the 60s, early 70s right there with the first electric type of deal. I see right there a piece of an aluminum lawn chair, tires, a very heavy duty frame for a lawn chair, other metals and glass in here, but by the look of the tires they were 50s and 60s. So there was a homestead here at one point. I can get out of here. The old white walls from the 50s. But there's a lot of deer sign, buck sign in here. If I was going to bow hunt, it would be right out here on the point of this where I first came in. I'm headed back out here. If I can get back on the deer trail, I can over here. And I will get back out on the path and continue my roundabout. Can't say anything big comes through here, and I wouldn't walk through here with bare feet anyway because of all the glass, but deer definitely come through here. Ow! Yikes! Lots of blackberries, D. All blackberry bushes. And you can see that I'm following a very prominent deer trail out here. Alright, there's the sycamore. There's the corner of this open field I just popped out of. Oh, blackberry thorns everywhere. Okay, to the next thing. Alright, that sycamore is freaking humongous. Out through there, if the phone bothers to see. Pick it up back over here, try and get it. Out through there, as I'm walking, you can actually tell that that's a field on the other side of this. And now you can start to see out a little bit. Zoom in, maybe you can see out. Okay. See past the leaves, there's the field. Goes up the hill to the barn from here, where the sycamore is. That big ass white sycamore. Now, you look down in there. Remember I told you that the barn is not that far away? Where's it? Zoom out a little, dumbass. Ta-da! There is a bend. The bend in the river. I can hear people. But I'm guessing that this is concrete. If this is not the perimeter trail, it's lovely. Zoom back out. All right. Now, that might be the perimeter trail. This was a driveway, a road or something. Probably when the farmer had it. You can see the top of the hill. Right in the middle of my screen, you see some taller trees. The barn is on the other side of those taller trees. I'm on the opposite side of where you hear the things screaming and stuff. This side you have not looked at yet. I'm going to say that's the perimeter trail. Follows the river and then crosses the river down there somewhere, right where I was. As I told you, this is not very far away from Dogman Rock. It just takes a long time to drive all the way around the whole place to get here. But this is a big, huge, beautiful trail. It comes right out along that. I don't know if it's a bike trail now or what exactly is going on here. You can see that it's very well used. And if this is not the perimeter trail and the other one was, here's more buck scrape. Bucks do that on the ground right underneath these things because they rub their horns up there and get their scent up high so that their scent travels. And the does pee on those spots to show the buck that they're in heat. The buck comes by every couple of days and checks that. You can see there's a lot of human footy prints in here. A buck print like I showed you before. Bucks, does travel like this, bucks travel like that. I don't see any recent sign after all the rain you guys had. Looking in the woods to see if I can find any Bigfoot sign. But so far over here I have not found anything specifically that looks like that. Okay, this trail. The trail keeps going on that way forever and ever, but the field is out there, so I'm not going to follow that. And actually, the trail wise off. There's a high road and a low road. And there's your nightmare, dude. Nightmare 4D. Down through the tunnel that never, never, ever ends. If you don't happen to come back out here, D, I'm going to find out where these roads go tonight. Okay, here's the other. Right there, I can see shiny water. So this goes, where's my finger? Come here, finger. That's what I'm showing you right there. That's the river. The river takes a turn, goes way out around this point, and comes back. And when you look on the map, you'll see where that river takes a big long point, switch back like that. That's where you cross the water. So I think that this over here, this big trail here that goes up, is the perimeter trail that goes down to that water. I'm going to stick with that because I'm not following it right now. I have to go look at the map that I got a little bit better. I could Google Earth it right now, but I don't want to use any more of my phone than I have to. But there's that big ass sycamore in the distance right there. You can see it, a big white tree. And that's the bottom of that open field behind the barn. And now I'm going to walk up over to the open field where the hedgerow is. But I'm going to walk through this trees here to see if I can come up with any lean-tos or anything Bigfooty-ish. All right, I can do that. The deer have made a nice angled plane for me to get up here. I don't have four-wheel drive like they do. There we go. All right. This is ash, swamp willow, ooh, or elm. I'm not even sure what the hell that was. That's a really old tree, but there's no more elm around. Look. I do not see. Ooh, I almost tripped over a metal fence here. In the end of this hedgerow, where you would think that you would find Bigfoot leaners, in the high spot here, I find nothing. There is, it goes down between those two big trees right there, follows this way and goes up through there. There is quite a nice trail right here that looks down on the water, but that could just be years and years of deer traveling along the edge of this open field. And now you can clearly see the water down there, and the water comes like that, goes way out around this ridge and comes back over there. So this big swoop right here, I think at the end of that swoop is where the perimeter trail crosses that river. Maybe after I retire, I'll come back here and I want to walk that entire perimeter trail. 33 miles. Walk it real slow. Spend a couple days. I won't be working, so I can do that. That's hard to say. Been there quite a while, but it is definitely wound all around in that tree. That definitely looks placed there, but there's not a lot of sign in here. But there's a nice crossroads right here. Oh. Maybe I lied. What do we have right there? Okay, out in the field you can see some bigger trees. Out in the field you see them bigger trees right there. The barn's on the other side of that. And then it comes down, juts out, and then back this way and you see that lower field. In the jut out, I just found a stick pile. Now these are all older trees, but there's no real leaves on top of it. What the hell, D? I'm going to say most of this probably wasn't this year, but gravity didn't do that underneath wide open sky. This is right in the corner of that field back I haven't seen them pile sticks before like that. Now this right here is the ladder, a piece of a ladder to an old tree stand. Well, it might not even be, yeah, it's a pretty old tree stand. I don't believe anybody's still sitting in it. Tree stand's in the tree right there. And that might be why they're trying to tell this guy to fuck off. Because there's there. Then you have this tree stand in the corner. I had to say this tree stand, it has a decent lock on it, but it's been there a couple of years. Then you have this, not hooked to the ground, leaned all in that tree. Another stick leaned into the crotch of that. And a bunch of sticks. Leaned. See all these sticks leaned and woven in here? The Bigfoot is trying to tell this guy to fuck off. Look at all that. You don't like that tree stands up there. But if he was smart, if Bigfoot was smart, he would just take that piece of ladder that the guy uses to get up in the tree stand. If they just took that piece of ladder down over the hill and threw it someplace, nobody would be able to use it anymore. There's a big leaner right there. The Bigfoot does not like that tree stand there. And it's just not a bad spot to find deer walking through, but not where I would put a tree stand. I'd put my tree stand in the lower, down in that lower corner where there's more obvious deer sign. Gotta move your tree stand every year. They get used to seeing it, and they'll look up in it looking for humans. In the fall, they'll start looking up in it when they know where it is. And it's set up in reverse because I think that deer would travel right where I'm standing more than they would out in front of where the guy's trying to shoot. But now if you look with your eyes, D, you see all of that thing and that pile of wood. Something's out here trying to tell that guy to fuck off. You think they're big enough that they could just grab onto that thing and rip it apart. But they didn't. And now you can see that little clump of trees and where the barn is behind it. Ooh. Back out to the goldenrod. And there, that's that lower field. There is some Bigfoot sign here, for sure. It looks like it's a year or two old. They must have put it up there when he put his tree stand up. There's a lot of deer in this field. Now that I know that this thing comes over this little hump here and dives way down into where the water is. I'll keep that in mind. And there, till the next thing. One more observation that I don't know if I've showed it before. You would think that this would be a beautiful path at nighttime for Bigfoot to just walk right down through here. Maybe even Dogman. But I want to give you a perspective of what you have to deal with if you have bare feet. There, now I'm on the ground. You see all those punji sticks? you would have to take your size 16 or 18 or 20 feet barefoot and walk on that stubble. And if I was Bigfoot, I'd be like, fuck you humans. Why did you do that? I can't walk in there. And maybe from this level you can see that it just continues forever as long as that is as high as a brush hog goes. And this is not, like this little one here is the bottom of goldenrod. But this are these little shrubby trees that you can see in there. You see the goldenrod, but then you can see leaves, regular leaves. And all of these red ones, will stay there and get harder and harder, and they don't break easy like them. Like this is goldenrod, and it breaks real easy. But these are just stiff and sharp. I don't know if you see, it cuts them off at an angle. They're stiff and sharp. There's the perfect one right there. That's a freaking punji stick. You cannot walk in this barefooted. And woe be you if you don't have a shirt on or something and you fall. Or if you jam your hands down when you do fall, you're going to get spiked. So take that into consideration when you think that a Bigfoot is going to walk down a trail that they have mowed in a field or someplace. If it's goldenrod and baby trees, like all of this is, they mow that thing down to 4 inches, and you can feel it underneath your shoes that a lot of them don't want to break. And if you had bare feet, you could not walk here. You could walk out there, but you couldn't walk in here. Just a observation. I didn't say anything about all that before because it seems obvious to me, but I have found that a lot of people don't think like I do. This is so beautiful out here. Now you can see that I've come over the top of the hill. That is the roof of the barn, the back of the barn right there, right next to those taller trees. And this whole thing that I just walked around, you haven't even found that deep because pretty much you only come out here at nighttime. So if you come out the back of the barn and follow this path and take a left up to the top of this hill, there's a whole another giant field and a river down there. I know that that wasn't where you got pulled. That's not where you saw the white thing, and that's not where the whatever it is trying to call you into the woods. Totally opposite from that, but there's a lot to explore up in here. Alright, on to the next thing. Alright, see the peak of the barn right there? On the other side of the barn is where the cars are parked. If you walk right straight through the barn and out the back and down a path that comes from, where's my finger? Zoom out, dummy. Take the barn, there's a path that comes straight over here. Right there, and comes in here. And then this, they have brushed hogged a clearing in here. And I would really love to run the necrophonic in here because this has that hushed, haunted church type of feeling. It's all I can say. Like maybe a haunted library because you want to whisper. Everything's very hushed. And you just want to whisper like this. And I find in places like that where Bigfoot's around, that there's always this weird tree. That is a maple tree. Comes up It looks like there was a grapevine wrapped around it, strangled it, and then it's bent over, but it insists on being alive. But these weird trees seem to attract Bigfoot attention. There's also beautiful myrtle right here. So I want to say that the people's house had to be somewhere around in here, because this myrtle isn't natural. I want to say it's not natural because it's growing, right? It's growing out in the middle of the field. Now this is planted somewhere in the shade around a house, and it got away from that. I have the same thing around my house, but my next door neighbors built their house on an old foundation, and that's where all that stuff came from. Somebody got a hound dog. Down there by the cars. Anyway, I just had this, saw this tree, saw the myrtle, and it just has this shh feeling to it. And I thought that I would find apple trees, but I'm guessing it doesn't get cold enough in the wintertime long enough for apple trees in this part of Ohio. In New York, if you found a place where there used to be an old homestead, you would find scrub apple trees. And that's the way this seems in here. Beautiful deer habitat where they would kind of like just roam around during the daytime and eat grass and berries, lay down to sleep anywhere they wanted to, and then come out at nighttime out in the field. But yeah, I would love to run necrophonic in this little open field right here behind the barn. Alright, on to the next. Keep saying that. It's going to sound like it's over and over and over, me just constantly saying on to the next, but on to the next. You just told me to go out where she brought me. Were those a little bit further than where we were? There's a patch where it's all carrots, wild carrots, and turnips or radishes. They kind of look the same in the fall, but I believe that's where her garden was, and the carrots are like 1.5 feet tall right there. That was really cool. And then I am back behind the barn in the trees a little bit. I just found a spot that I would love to run the necrophonic. Somebody's training a baby hound dog, I believe, with an older hound dog that's really excited. But I just walked down through a spot where I wanted to, it looks a church or a library, you know, you're like, shh, don't say anything, be quiet, like that. The way it feels, like a haunted place feels. And I walked down the little pathways to it, and yoink. I know for a fact you have not been out here. So, it's still got battery to it. I don't know if this is one of the ones you left in the barn or the parking lot or the path or exactly what, but the barn is out this path out in the field there, but up the tree. Up there where you can see the massive trees out there. The barn is over there. And then you got this little loop that they made through the woods. It was not brush hogged this year, but there's a loop through the woods, and there's an open part that feels like shushy. And I just found your one of your balls. Whew, it's getting warm. Yeah. Can't quite see them, but our cars are parked right there. See that kind of like taller dead tree right there? That's where the cars are parked. You go across that field right there, and on the other side of that hump of shrubs, and right back in there, and on the other side of those trees, the barn. Right there, there's a guy hunting. I don't know what he's hunting for. Pheasant? I don't think it's gun season for deer yet. So maybe he's trying to find pheasant. I can hear pheasant off down by the river. But I walked the edge of the field, then it comes out into a point that you can see when you come out of those trees from the barn. And then it goes back. And then I'm going to zoom out, if the sun will allow me. There is a great big, I'm not sure what that is, but it looks like a blueberry bush that's 20 feet tall and 40 feet long. That's a friggin' thing. Now, when we get over here, something big has been in here. Mess with these tag alders. Alright, now I'm looking inside of it. There's a little hill up on top, but something crawls in there. I wouldn't doubt that it's a lot of deer, but something crawls up in there. And I'm going to in a second. Ugh. But from where you are, kind of kitty corner out in the end of this field, and a little bit tough to get to. Seems to me like this is where you were called from, where it was. Ooh, I don't like it in here. Calling for you to come here. Help, help, help. I think all of that shit the first night came from right in here. I can't get to the top of that little hill from this side, so I'm going to go around. But there's obviously bigger sticks are broken in here. Something's making quite a trail to come out, and there's quite a tunnel to go in. Reminds me of the Little People tunnels that you were looking at. This furthest brush hog trail takes a right here and doesn't come up this hill. So I gotta walk through this stuff here. I have to charge my phone, so I can't. This part of the field's all mowed. It almost looks like they hayed this off. You can't see it from where we normally go or up by the barn. Oh yeah. Blackberry bushes. Owie, 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 owie. Oh yeah. They hayed this. This was actually hay, and you can see that they came along and disked it for planting. So this is a better place. That guy standing over there should be hunting here, but you can see the big trail. Something big is coming in and out of this big mound. Dirt piles, and a bunch of very thick place to hide in here. But if you want my professional opinion, right on this pile, right where I'm standing, with someone yelling, "Help! Please come here. From right here. Now the second time it happened, I think it happened from the wood line over here, which is not as far away as my phone makes it look. So that's where I'm headed, along the edge of this open field. And last night, now you can see my car if you see a little thing of blue over there. You know, that's my car. Last night, over here in this corner, which is, the phone makes it look twice as far away as it is. Over here in this corner last night was where we heard that girl laughing. But I'm going to eventually get there. But I want to say the first night when that thing was calling you to come here, it was doing it from right inside there. Okay. Next. Now I've pointed these out in my early videos, some of my walk-arounds of my place. At first, the novice person might think that that looks squatchy, where sticks are leaned and woven in like that. But you see how messy that looks? And you see the dead leaves that gives it away? The Sasquatch don't do things that give it away. Somebody made this right here to be a deer blind for this open, this open field, the hiccups. You see how messy that is? Bigfoots, when they make a blind, from 20 yards away, you can't tell it's a blind. It's just barely enough stuff there where you're not going to be able to see their outline. But somebody on purposely made a spot to sit in right there, so that the deer and the DEC, Department of Energy and Conservation in New York, I'm not sure what they call it in Ohio, has planted clover. If you give me a minute, I'll find a 4-leaf clover. I'm good at it for some reason. Clover over here they planted, and then a little bit out here past, they planted thistle, and then they planted rose. A little bit further. There we go. See, they planted rows of winter wheat, and that is radishes, winter wheat and radishes for the deer. Radish greens, they love radish greens, and they love clover, and they love winter wheat. But the government, the state government, most likely came in here and planted for the deer so they could live through the harsher winters. They do that in places in New York too, but where they do it in New York, you're not allowed to hunt. But that's from here, even from here, you can see that stupid blind. It just doesn't. That looks stupid. It's actually going to draw your eyes over there and cause you to see the human sitting behind that one little crossbar. Even if he puts up a curtain, you're going to see the human sitting there. It's going to draw your eyes to it. Alright, so I'm zoomed in. Okay. I'm at the kitty corner. This is the very far end corner. And I believe where those bigger trees are right there is where you were called from the second time that the thing called with the male voice to call you to come here, come here. That happened right over there. But I'm going to walk down in this corner. See, I've walked this entire thing and it really doesn't look like any Bigfoot sign here. And there are some giant leaners. But I think those are blowdowns. There's roots and stuff to it. Don't see, like way down on the other side, almost a mile from here where I found that pile of sticks next to that tree stand. That's got to be a mile down there. That was definitely Bigfoot sign, but on this end, I don't see any Bigfoot sign right here at the corner of the field where they would put a notice of some kind. You would think that you would find an X or a directional or something like that. And even though I'm seeing some very large leaned trees, I believe those are all wind blowdowns. Okay, I'm at the end of that field. And right there, well, you can see the river. And that's not the spot you walk across, obviously. But there is a path down the other side to the river, from the other side down there on that, you're seeing the beach right there. And a path that comes down to that beach. Right there. I don't know where that path comes from. But that's the bend. And this is the backwards bend to that river where it comes back around. And it goes around, out and around that point where that road goes. And I think that's where you're going to find the crossing. I don't see anything Sasquatchy on the corner over here where you think that you would find leaners. I just scared off a water bird of some kind. That is a big, beautiful oak tree. Just gorgeous. I'm almost around the corner. Over there where those bigger trees on the hedgerow are is where I think you were called to from last time. But there's nothing but huge path right here. Not a people path. Something comes right down this ridge. Around between those two big trees. You see the river down there? You can hear that water bird. But the river has an offshoot that comes over here, and that's probably at the other corner of this field where the parking lot is and that little bridge that goes over. That's where this comes out into the river. I'd love to walk down there in the mud and see if I could find any footprints, but I don't have time for that. And I believe that I probably only have 30 or 35% on my phone, so I gotta get doing something. Oh yeah, this is beautiful down in here. There's the open field right there, but the corner of the open field is open hardwoods like you would think when you look in here. Beautiful all the way down to the water. And if humans came, you could just book it down to the water, so humans aren't going to go across that. Perfect spot, but there's no Sasquatch feeling to this. This is all deer and coyote territory on this end. Feels like obvious why the deer are up here. We just got endless supplies of clover on this end. Winter wheat's growing. Radishes interspersed in here and there, just for specifically to keep the deer population up. Alright. Now, we didn't see any Sasquatch stuff there, but this is way old. But this was piled. This mess right here was all piled in here. I wouldn't doubt that, like I think at home, that on the very edge of the very edge of a Bigfoot's, I'm not sure what I'm hearing. I know I'm hearing leaves and water, but I'm hearing a rustling, probably squirrels. On the very edge of a Bigfoot's territory, they make these great big structures. And you can tell that was put in there. It's busted now, but this was made a long time ago. But that one's off of there and fell in here. And then they took all the pieces of it and piled it up on top of each other and put it up through the crotch of that tree. Here you go, D. Chicken of the woods. These are chicken of the woods mushrooms. Okay. Ugh. But this is old. This is super duper old. But I see no recent anything from them. I'm gonna go down here by these I gotta get through these thorns. I'm gonna go down here by these bigger trees and make another short video. Alright, now I'm in the middle of that open field where these bigger trees are. The top of that oak tree right there busted off and fell right here. And it looks like it's not the only one. So you got one on that side and one on that side that busted off. And both of them took this tree down and crashed, and they crashed on top of each other. One down and one above. And the one that's down and the one above, I gotta get through these tag alders here, created a spot like the other spot. See down in there? I can't get in there. But if it was on top of this tree or standing here, either way, I think this right here, possibly down in there, is where that thing was screaming for you. It's protected in there. Nothing can happen. And if it was up here, it could see you coming across that field and see if you were alone or not. But no matter where you came from, if you were alone, help me, you'd have a really hard time getting right in here. So you'd be all tired out by the time you got to it. And by that time, it could go down the back, across the stream, yelling help me the whole time and trying to lure you away. I would 90% say that second help me, please come here, came from right here. All right, back to the field. Hi, Dee. That's the parking lot at the end of the road, the barn road, and the open field's right there. I say right there, you can't get there from here, walking, not easily. But there is this road that goes back behind it. That laughing we heard could have been on this road. It didn't come from the parking area, but it could have been on this road. Although after that, we didn't see any cars or bicycles or anything come back up the road. Hard to say what exactly that was. But this roadway is too down deep in the woods for that yelling that you heard. Help me. That didn't come from this roadway. That came right from the very edge of that field. And I believe if I walk back this way far enough, I just walk through the goldenrod and tag alders up to my shoulders. Got completely full of stickers. If I walk back there further, it's back up in that really thick trees, big trees up there. But now I'm walking down by the stream. Just wanted to come down here and see if I could catch any trails or footprints or anything. But in these woods on this end, I don't see anything Sasquatchy. Nothing. And you can see that somebody sensed the rain, somebody drove a vehicle down this road. Down and back it looks like. But I wanted to see if I could catch any footprints in the silt by the water. This is the little stream that the bridge up by the parking lot that comes over. And it's beautiful. There's ledges down through there made of rock. Beautiful down through here. I don't see any footprints, but there's your brachiopod layer of stone. You can see the fossils in it. I love fossils. Not quite as much as Noah, but I love them. Alright. Skip across the stones a little bit. I gotta get back to my car and plug my phone in if I want to have it charged back up for tonight. I don't see footprints in the mud, and that's all stone down through there, so I thought maybe in the stream bed I would see if something walked across there. Like I can walk across there because I got my booties on. there's something heavy walked across this clay recently. You would see them like I see my footprints, but I don't see anything. On this side, definitely deer. A truck. But this is a path right here, which people probably walk right across there because it's the shallowest. People footprints. I don't see big trilobite. If you wanted to keep dry and cross right here, this would, over here would be the place to do it. Looks like somebody built a semi-bridge right here. All right. So, see the claw prints on the end of that? Big, long foot, way smaller than my foot. When you see the claws, you can immediately see the rest of the dogman footprint. A rather small one, but that's a classic looking dogman footprint in the mud. And literally, if they just walked up through, like, you know, I got my ducky boots on, but if they walked up in here and kept out in the middle where the water's running, you would not at all find footprints out here because they would just immediately wash away. But I caught one. I think I just see another one. I'm not going to walk over there. Let's see if the phone will pick it up. Right there in the mud, 4 big claws. Right there. Come on, phone. Stop seeing my... See that indentation ending in 4 claws right there? Now that footprint is almost the size of my foot. That is a classic doggy man footprint. If I get closer to it, I won't be able to see it. Maybe we can see it from this angle better. Okay, where's that? Back off just a little bit. Getting sky. You can see the claw marks really good from this angle, but you can't see the rest of the footprint. Doggy man. Woohoo! Okay, I'm good to go, unless something happens between here and my car. I showed this is where I was coming back up to the parking lot, but I just wanted to make a summary. I always do that for Dee at the end of the video, so she don't have to watch my whole video unless I tell her at the end that I did something or found something. So I found the two most likely places where, for better lack of terminology, the Wendigo or the rake called to you from. Two very protected spots, and they look like that's where the sound came from. That's where I would have done it from if I was a monster. Anyway, the laughing could have been down this little roadway, although, like I said in the video, there was no car, no bikes, nothing came by us in our direction anyway. Whew. So I'm going to walk back up to the car, hook my phone to my charger. I have my lights charging this whole time, so they got to be charged by now. Hook my phone to my charger and wait to see if you come. So down the road, there's on this end where the parking lot is, there is no Bigfoot sign, no squatchy, nothing. Nothing that really, shows to the practiced eye that might be them. Nothing like that, or at least not on this side, the field side. In the stream towards the end, I found a couple of dogman tracks, a little tiny one and a good sized one. I did find that they have planted winter wheat and clover for the deer on this end, down by the parking lot end. And I heard a couple of pheasant today. Somebody ran some hound dogs down through. Let's see what this says, dove hunting area. Down there by the parking lot it says dog training area. And somebody ran their beagles down that road and then down the river on the outside of the field. But this field is way bigger than what you've seen at nighttime, and it is rough walking through it. I'm full of stickers, and I'm going to get back to the car and charge my grab. Here we go. All right. Oh, I don't think the phone caught it, but I just saw a pheasant run across the road up here. All right. That's the end of the video. I did find stuff, very interesting stuff. But there's a collage so that you know the surrounding areas of when you go to the barn looking for stuff, have a good idea what's around you without having to go through it like I did. All right. Bye-bye.